What I want you to do is I want you to put one thing that you value or that is important to you in each one of those circles. One thing that is important or of value to you in each one of those circles. And so it could be a thing like a home or a motorcycle. It could be a place like Belize or Bemidji. It could be a concept like freedom or love. Or it could be a person like a niece and nephew, a significant other. All right? So one thing that you value or that is important to you in each one of those 5 circles. All right? So one in each of the circles. If you want to put the 5 of the same thing in each one of those circles, go right ahead. So 5 things that you value, one in each one of those circles. However you want to define that, Sally, that works. And who is without a syllabus? Of the 3 of you guys. Okay.
I have it up here, so feel free.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I'll get you a paper copy.
I have an extra copy.
Oh, do you? Oh, great. Thank you. You guys are so friendly to each other. That is such a great start. All right. So you have the 5 things that you value. What I'd like to do is I'd like to play a game. And the game is very simple. What I want you to do is I want you to find a minimum of 2 people for each one of the things that you wrote down on your paper. I want you to find people who either agree with what you have and they say, wow, that's a really good idea that you have on your paper. Or I want you to find people who actually share the same thing on their paper. All right? So people who either agree with what you have on your paper or they actually share the same thing that you have on your paper. And so a minimum of 2 people per circle. And you have 90 seconds beginning now.
Everybody has to come together. You guys want to I have 4 things.
I was thinking about it.
It's 60 seconds. 60 seconds.
I have faith family. Did anyone put a boyfriend?
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
I know.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and
You don't have your priorities straight.
all right. So first of all, is there anyone that out of your 5 circles was not able to find anyone to sign on their paper? Was there anyone who has a paper with all 5 circles with no signatures at all? All 5 circles are blank. Okay. So everybody was at least able to find one person that they could connect with. All right? Cool. So as you were going around the room, were there things that you saw on other people's papers and you were like, wow, that was a good idea. I should have wrote that down myself. What were some of those things that you saw in someone else's? Yes, Mindy. Food, right? Yeah, especially now. Yes, Kevin. Travel. You saw that. What's that? Pets. You saw pets.
Positive energy.
Positive energy. What's that? Education. Right? Music. Right? Honesty. Right? So these are all great things. So people were able to find connections around those things. Were there also things that were either more difficult to find someone to sign on, or maybe you didn't find someone to sign on at all? Did anyone have any of those things that were more difficult, or you actually didn't find anyone? Yes, Sophie.
I had diversity.
Diversity. All right. Please raise your hand if you value diversity, whatever you think that means, even if it wasn't written on your paper, but you think that's an important value. All right. Cool. What was another that someone had difficulties? Yes, Sally.
It was wisdom, knowledge.
Knowledge?
We didn't talk to each other.
What? Oh, so you said wisdom?
Wisdom/knowledge.
Okay, wisdom slash knowledge. If you think wisdom or knowledge is important or a value, even if you didn't write it on your paper, please raise your hand. All right? Sweet. One more.
I
Yes.
my roommate.
Your roommate. All right? So having a significant other in a sense, right? Or being in a relationship with people, if being in a relationship with people is important, even in a living situation, please raise your hand if that's of value or importance to you. All right, cool. So what obviously is the objective of this particular activity? Why would I start this activity at this particular time, at this particular place? Yes, Mindy.
Like, pretty much overall, everybody wants and values the same things.
That for the most part,
Yeah.
we value the same things or similar things, right? So in most of the diversity conversations that I have been a part of growing up, those that I've also conducted as well as been a part of, we've spent a great deal of time talking about our differences and not enough time, in my perception, talking about the things that make us more similar. And so as we move forward, I want you to keep that in mind, that we are much more alike than we are different. And that our differences are oftentimes just illusions. All right? At the same time, what I'm not saying is that our differences aren't that important, because they are important. And we'll talk more about that as we work through more of this in just a second. So I was trying to pull up the syllabus on the screen, but I'm not exactly sure why that's not working. So
We usually use this one.
right, is this?
I don't know if that one's connected to the computer or maybe.
Yeah, I've got like 14 remotes up here.
Every teacher struggles with this, like the first one.
Yeah, I'm feeling like my dad. What's going on with this thing? Whippersnapper. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll figure it out at the break. But so if you can just go to your syllabus. Just want to point out some things. It is front and back, by the way, so sometimes you have to say that. So we'll start with the three texts that we'll be using in the class. The first is Jensen's Teaching with Poverty in Mind. And I really like this because it's also a book that's published by one of the teachers' unions. And so there's a lot of good research in there. It can be a little dry and thick. But one of the things that is really exciting about what Jensen offers, and I didn't even realize this until he introduced this concept, that IQ is not a status thing. So you may be born with a certain level of IQ, but you can actually you can expand that, or you can change it, you can adjust it, and so that offers lots of opportunities for our students who sometimes have been labeled as having a low or poor IQ. So that's an important part of that book. We can't teach what we don't know, and what I was looking for was a book that allowed white people to hear from a white person about how to be a good helper. And so he tells lots of stories from his personal experience, and so we'll draw from that as a point of conversation. And then lastly, I wanted to make sure that it gave you an opportunity to look at some theory. And so this book, Teaching with Diversity and Social Justice, Teaching for Diversity and Social Justice, is a really good book. This is the cornerstone of most of the work that I do. And it's so funny because I thought things, and then I discovered this book, and I was like, hey, it's written down! You know, so I'm not as smart as I thought I was, but that's a great resource, and we'll spend the majority of the time dealing with the first three chapters. And you'll have an assignment out of that second chapter that's not necessarily on the syllabus, because I want it to be a discussion piece more so than a written assignment kind of thing that you turn in for a grade. But I want it to be a thought process that you engage in. So those are the three texts. We obviously know about the Moodle, and we'll get to that in just a second, especially if I can open that up. So we are in week 1, and if you turn to page 4, I believe, is the tentative schedule. So these are the kinds of things you can look for in terms of what I'm expecting you to either hand in to me, or how the lectures might go. So we're doing the review, and we're establishing group norms and all that kind of stuff. So by the end of this week, so May 3rd, starting next week, it is my hope that you will have a reflection on the Boys of Baraka. And that's a documentary. It's in Moodle. All 6 sessions are in there. It's about an hour of video watching. But I think it'll really set the stage for the worst case scenario in terms of where kids are coming from, the context that they're in, and then how, as teachers, we can help them and how we can also hurt them. All right? So the Boys of Baraka reflection will be due. There's also some questions around poverty, and that's all in the Moodle section. Week 2, you'll have a reflection paper basically about week 1, and so those directions are in the Moodle as well.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
I looked at Moodle, I didn't see it on Moodle. So where is it is it already in Moodle? This Rock's video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is anyone else finding it?
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
Okay. Let me look at what you're looking at. Oh. Okay. No, I will. Yep, you'll see it. It's for some reason it has this week only, but not next week or the following week. So I'll open that up. Yes.
And another question is that is this paper really due May 3rd because that's Saturday? Because it says reflection and then it says due May 3rd, which is Saturday.
Yep.
Okay.
Would there be a problem?
No, I'm just making sure that
Okay.
the dates are right. Okay.
Yep, okay. Yeah, so.
Chris,
Yes.
how do you want us to get that reflection to you?
So you'll upload it into Moodle.
There, this is a
Isn't that what he's going to make?
Yeah, so
I think we're not seeing everything you're.
yeah, you're not seeing everything that's in Moodle. So I'll fix that and I'll do it right at the break. So before we leave, you'll be able to see everything. Okay. So I apologize for that. It's hard for me to know what you guys see versus what I see. So there's that, and then let's see. Week 3 is a critical week, and it's a critical week. So week 3, May 14th, you will be doing a presentation on American natives, otherwise known as American Indians or Native Americans. I have to say it like that because that's how it says it in the state, American natives. At any rate, so we will be breaking up into groups, and we will each be taking in our groups a piece of that, and we'll talk about that as we go through the syllabus. What each of those presentations will look like. All right. Then we have our diverse learners presentations. We'll talk about institutional bias and discrimination in week 4. We'll start working on our classroom management reflection paper, which will be due May 21st. And again, these are things you can upload in Moodle, so our class meeting won't be necessarily coinciding with that stuff. I'd like to have stuff on Saturday so that I can have it ready for you by Monday. So I can have it graded for you by Monday, which is why Saturday shows up as opposed to just being on Mondays. And lastly, our diverse learners, week 5, that'll be a paper that will also be due. All right? So here are the required assignments. If you go to page 5. So there's 3 reflection papers. Reflection paper 1 will be a reflection on the Boys of Baraka, Teaching with Poverty in Mind, chapters 3 through 5. And these, again, are reflections. And Teaching with Poverty, which is also part of Jensen's work, right? So part of that lecture will be that all of that will be a part of that reflection. Reflection paper 2, we cannot teach what we don't know. We'll talk about systemic oppression. Some of that stuff we will cover in class. The other parts will be things that are in We Can't Teach What We Don't Know in the book. And then we'll talk about adverse childhood experiences. And those will be some pieces that we'll do both in class as a lecture as well as resources that will be on Moodle for you. And then reflection paper 3 is about classroom management. There's some PDFs on scan skills. Anyone familiar with scan skills? All right. So back in the 90s, under President Bill Clinton, the Secretary of Education gathered a group of people together and asked, what are some necessary skills that students need to learn? And so those became what are affectionately known as the SCAN skills. They've adapted and changed, but we'll use the SCAN skills in terms of classroom management. We'll also talk about the needs of special education students, and then we'll also deal with some best practices as a part of that journal. Another important assignment is Minnesota-based American Indian presentation, and that will be a PowerPoint presentation that you will do in teams. And again, I think that's due week 3, if I'm not mistaken, from what we said in the timeline. Yep, so week 3. So in two more weeks. And then there's the chemical health paper, and and a lot of things that you'll see around this chemical health paper will be things that come out of the Native American presentation, as well as the Minnesota. What's that school survey that the kids do all the time? I forgot what the name of it is. No, it's not. It's the climate survey, right? So the student climate survey has a lot of the information that you'll need for the chemical health paper, and then lastly, the diverse learners paper. Reflection paper should be a minimum of 500 words because I want to at least make sure that you've given some concrete thought to that stuff. I don't have a maximum, but do know there's 25 of you, and so 7-page reflection papers might be a bit much. Right? And I'm not a stickler for APA style or anything like that, but just make sure that your thoughts are clear and that they're thoughtful and that you've supported them with some content. I've done this long enough to know when somebody does something the night before. Right? So there's that. No, I don't necessarily need that. No, because most of these things will be your thoughts. All right. Questions so far? Yes.
Reflection, it says there's 3 bullet points. You're saying 1 reflection for those 3.
Correct.
Okay.
1 reflection for those three bullets. In total. Yeah. Yes.
I know this might not be possible, but I think a lot of us are a little bit maybe shocked by this Saturday thing, since some of us like work and really use the weekend to work on our projects and usually do the following Wednesday. I know it's going to be difficult to me to get things done well by Saturday, and I've seen a couple of people maybe feeling the same way.
Okay.
I don't know if that's negotiable or not.
Everything is negotiable, especially when you're paying. However, I wanted to do the best by you by trying to get those things to you by Monday. So if you have any questions or disagreements with what I've graded, we can talk about it on Monday. If that's not going to work for folks, I will figure out what works best for you.
Why Monday?
What's that? Why Monday? Because that's when we meet for class. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I meant Wednesday. Sorry. I needed it by Saturday. Yes, I'm sorry. I have another class on Monday. So that's why I keep saying Monday. I apologize. I'm thinking today is Monday. So no, we can adjust that. We can adjust that. I just wanted to be prepared for Wednesday when you guys have class. So I apologize for that confusion around Monday. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, could we have it maybe due Monday?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep. Yeah. We'll do it. We'll have it because I don't work on Sunday. I just want to put that out there. There's nothing I do on Sunday. So, but yeah, we can have it by Monday. So, and I'll make that addendum in the syllabus. You're welcome. You're welcome. So on page 6 of the syllabus is the outline for the chemical health paper. Again, my objective is to try to make this as smooth of a process for you as possible. And so page 1, introduction, what are the issues around chemical health? Well, actually, let's read the description. The chemical health paper, the use of chemicals by students and by those in their families can play a significant role in their lives. Chemicals can affect the students' ability to learn as well as their ability to focus in school. Conflicts among students can involve chemicals and lifestyles that include chemicals. Based on the Minnesota-based American Indian presentation and the class and the resources provided in the course, which will be in the Moodle that you'll see, try to paint a picture of prevention and intervention efforts that schools and school districts might embark on, as well as specific examples on things that can be helpful in dealing with those things. And so I have the pages laid out here. Page 1 being the introduction, page 2 being the risk factors, page 3 being popular methods of self-medicating. And that's a term that oftentimes is used, is that folks are self-medicating. Interventions that schools are using and methods that you will employ as a teacher to counteract some of those things. All right? Yes?
I'm just wondering when that is due.
The chemical health paper is due. Oh, I didn't put it in there, did I? Chemical health paper will be week 4.
Okay, so chemical health issues for Thursday, so that's a topic, and then I think it's due.
Oh, no. Chemical health issues actually will be week 5. I apologize. It's double. It's in there double. So it's week 5, May 28th. That's when it's due. The paper is due, the 28th.
Okay.
Week 5, the 28th, May 25th.
Okay.
May 28th, rather. All right? Yes.
The diverse learner paper is also due.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So those 2 big papers will be due at the end of class. So do not procrastinate. Thank you for that clarification. So Minnesota-based Native American Indians, or I keep saying Native Americans. So there are 10 topics that I am going to ask that folks get in teams of 2 or 3, because we have just over 20 folks in the class. And at the break, I'll have you sign up with your partner or partners for one of these topics. All right? And so the first topic being the impact of Native American boarding schools, the 1924 Native American Citizenship Act, the relevance of Native American charter schools and the charter school movement, what is an OIC and why is that important for Native Americans, and you can read the rest of those 10. So you and your partners will be responsible to present on the week 3 a PowerPoint presentation to the class based on one of those topics. All right? We will not be repeating topics. So obviously the first come, first serve kind of thing, and we hope that all of those are covered thoroughly. There's some resources at the bottom if there are things that folks aren't familiar with. On page 8 is the criteria that I'll be looking for in terms of your reflections as well as your papers. And so this is how I'll be grading those based on this rubric. And then there's the biography, and that is it. I know you have lots of questions, so feel free to email me at your convenience and at your leisure. In your other classes, what has been the pleasure of the group in terms of breaking for dinner? About what time have folks?
Usually between 6:30 and 6:45.
Okay.
Some students go to the dining center, and
Okay.
that closes at, I think at 2:45, right? Or 7. So
Okay.
breaking any time between 6:30 and 6:45.
Okay. So cool. Can we take about 10 minutes and then we'll break and then we'll come back? Folks are usually taking about a half hour. Okay. So we'll do that. All right. Any other questions specifically about what you can see in the Moodle so far? Yes.
So for the diverse learners, we write a paper and then do a PowerPoint too in class.
Yep, and you will not do a PowerPoint in class. And actually, the diverse learners will be a PowerPoint and not a paper.
But we won't show it to the class.
You won't show it to the class.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it will be a PowerPoint and not a paper. And no, those two things keep flipping back and forth in the stuff. So the diverse learners is a PowerPoint and not a And for all of your PowerPoints, one thing I will ask that you do is for your Native American PowerPoint presentation, as well as your Diverse Learners PowerPoint, is to upload it into a discussion group that that I have created that's called Student Forum. So if you upload those, and then other people can see your presentations. Right? So if you do something that's really cool, and they're like, oh, wow, I'd love to use that in my class, then you have access to that. And it's in the student, it'll be the Student Forum. All right? Cool. All right, so let's do this. So let's go back to your 5 circles. So obviously, I asked you to write down what? What did I ask you to write down? 5 things that were value or important, right? Value or important. So as you look at these 5 things, is there anyone who wrote down something about their racial or ethnic group as one of these 5 things that they value? Was there anyone who did that? Okay, so I have one person who did that. Anyone else? Okay, cool. As people were looking at these 5 things, did anyone put their gender group as one of those 5 things that they value or that is important to them? So nobody put their gender group as one of those 5 things that's of value or importance to them. Huh? Did anyone put their social economic status as one of those 5 things that's important or of value to them? So nobody did that either, huh? So I got one taker on the race or ethnicity piece. I got no takers on the gender piece, and I have no takers on the social economic piece. So why is it that the majority of you did not put anything down about your race or ethnicity? Why did the majority of you not put anything down about your gender or your socioeconomic status? Why did those things not show up?
I never really think about them.
Okay, so you never really think about them. All right, Jennifer?
Personally, I just kind of tend to take I don't know, they don't really factor into my idea of who I am as a person, even though they're like the most obvious things. So I think we all tend to think of the more nuanced things, which is what sets us apart from those who are around us.
Okay, so it's not something you think about on a regular basis. You kind of
I take it for granted.
take it for granted. All right, cool. Other folks?
I value these things more.
You value those things more. I'm going to let the rest of you off the hook. You did not write those things down about your race or your socioeconomic status or your gender because you're smart. You're smart. You did exactly what I asked you to do, which was what? Write the 5 things down that are important to you. So you wrote down 5 things that are important to you. Now, it's very interesting to me that those are the things that make us, most human, and that we can find commonalities around. But the world is very much interested in that other stuff. The world is interested in making sure that we understand that we are different races, that we have different economic access to goods, jobs, services, and money. The world is very interested in making sure that they divide so they can conquer. Right? And so what oftentimes happens is that when we look at these 5 things, we start to understand that we're actually more alike than we are different. This confirms our alikeness. And that the differences that we think we see are what I like to call obstacle illusions. Barriers to authentic human relationships. These things are obstacle illusions. And so the world outside of us loves to think about and talk about how we're different. And it's so insane because our human differences are so minuscule that it almost doesn't make any difference when we look at ourselves as a human species. And it really gets goofy when we talk about this concept of race. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that, particularly after the break. But race actually makes no sense at all. It's nonsensical. Take President of the United States, President Barack Hussein Obama. How does he show up ethnically in the world? How does he show up ethnically? You would look at him and say he's black. That's what most people will say, right? He's black. Is it the sum total of his existence? No. Right? So his father was a black Kenyan from Africa. His mother was a white woman from Kansas. They got together and they Obama'd. And so he shows up as a black man, but he can also show up as equally as a biracial or mixed man. Which also means that if he shows up as a black man, and he can show up as a biracial or mixed man, that means he also can show up as a white man. Can you imagine how people would receive President Barack Hussein Obama if he said he was a white man? It's hard enough for some people to believe he was born. But that's a whole nother conversation. All right? So those are some things to help us really think about. That the differences between us are minuscule at best. And we'll spend a great deal of time talking about that after the break. So I put a packet of information in front of you. So if you want to just grab that. And I want to start to unwind some of these pieces, as well as talk about some basic theories as to how we've kind of come to having this particular conversation that may in fact be different than many conversations that you've ever been a part of. Has anyone been to a diversity training before? Please raise your hand. Okay. You are the people I have to heal. Because I don't know about you, oftentimes I feel worse about myself having gone to those trainings than I actually do in my participation in them. And so we'll talk about why do students behave or act the way that they do. And so I'm going to go to some of the basic truths about human beings. All right? So truth number one: people can learn, change, and grow. Who I am today is not who I was at 17. Thank God. Right? So people can learn, change, and grow. And we typically change and grow as our context changes and grows. And so we adapt as things change. Do you know someone who has not adapted? Right? Yeah. I have an aunt, and she still has the fan bangs. The scary part is that it came back, and then it went away, and then Fergie happened. No, what's the girl's name from New Jersey? Snooki, not Fergie. Snooki, right? All right. So people can learn, change, and grow, and the trick for teachers, for educators, is that we have to hold that hope out for students even when we don't see any evidence of it. We have to believe so much in them that our belief becomes contagion for them. Right? So even though we don't see any evidence, because I'm sure there's a behavior that you had growing up that your parents were like, they will never get it. But one day you finally got it, right? Whatever that behavior was. All right? So people can learn, change, and grow. People do what they think works even when what? Even when it doesn't work. And why do they do things even though it's not working? Why do people continually have a pattern of behavior even though it's not working? What's that? Habit. It's easy. What else? What's that? Fear of change.
You don't know what else to do.
They don't know what else to do.
They want that to work.
They want that to work. And why do they want it to work, Sally?
I don't know, that's the result. It's comfortable, it's easy, it's just, they don't have to change this,
Okay.
right? It's just easier. Right?
Okay, so it's just easier.
The same path.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. You had that nervous, like, I just have to say something. So it was a false alarm. Okay. She's like, I just think like that naturally.
They think it's the right way.
Okay. Anyone seen a kid fall out in a major department store, throw a tantrum, right? Or a grocery store or something like that, right? Was that kid's first time doing it? Do you imagine that was their first time doing it? Probably not. So why are they getting what they want when they fall out in that store? Typically not, right? So why are they falling out?
Wear down the parents
To wear down the parents. To wear down the parents to what end?
so that they get what they want.
So they get what they want, right? So people usually do something because it's worked in the past. Because it's been successful in the past. And so what they say is, all things considered, if I'm in a similar situation, that thing that worked in the past should work now. Which also means, when they come to a future situation, what behavior are they going to use? That same behavior. Because it worked in the past, it should work now, and therefore it should work in the future. So when will a person change their behavior? Because not working doesn't change their behavior, because they're not getting what they want, but they still keep doing this thing. When will they change their behavior? When they figure out that the behavior that they're exhibiting is not going to get them to their goal. It's not going to get them what they want. Right? Many of us, I would imagine most of us wore diapers at some point. And if you're doing it now, that's okay, because I will be in the future. I know that, right? But there came a time when you decided, nobody else could decide for you, that you were done wearing a diaper. For some of us, that was age 7, for others, right? So that was a decision that you made. So first, people can learn, change, and grow. People do what they think works. And all human behavior is goal-directed. All human behavior is goal-directed. And maybe I'm somewhat of you might say I'm a pessimist or something like that, but I don't believe in that there is true altruism, right? That people just do stuff out of the kindness of their heart just to be kind. Unfortunately, I believe that people do stuff because they get some emotional feedback, or they get praise, or something like that. And so all human behavior is goal-directed. Now, the funny thing about this particular point is that oftentimes as adults, we drive ourselves crazy when dealing with young people. Because anyone had a young person like take a piece of candy or take a cookie that they didn't ask for or something like that. And typically, what do adults ask the kid? What's that?
What do you say? What do you say, like please or something?
No, when a kid is taking something and they've stolen it.
Is that yours?
So you say, is that yours? Right?
Put it back.
Put it back. Okay. Right? Yeah, most often what adults will say, well, Johnny, why did you take the cookie? And what is Johnny's response? I don't know. Right? I don't know. And we don't stick around long enough to hear the rest of Johnny's statement, because Johnny usually says, I don't know. Why, you're asking me that question. You know I wanted the cookie. Right? And so as leaders and guides, we have to understand that people do something because they think that they're going to get something out of it, that they're trying to accomplish some kind of goal through that behavior. And then lastly, an attitude is a reaction to a goal. What have you been taught about what an attitude is? What is an attitude? How many of you have attitudes right now? What's an attitude? So,
The way that you feel, like the way you feel about something.
okay, so the way you feel about something, an attitude. Your emotions, okay? Your reaction to something.
So the way you purvey a feeling.
Okay, the way you purvey a feeling.
The way you approach something.
The way you approach something. Those are all great responses. And they were inadequate for my parents. My parents grew up kind of old school. And one of the things that, they would talk about the legends of their growing up, walking up and down hills barefoot and, all that kind of stuff, right? And so my parents went to college, and since they were educated in ways that my grandparents weren't, they said, we're not going to raise our kids the same way that our parents raised us. Because my grandparents would spank, and they would scream and yell. And so my parents said, we're not going to do that to our kids. We're going to use psychology. We're going to use all of this social science that we know about youth development. And that's how we're going to raise our kids. And when that stuff didn't work, they went back to what they knew, which was yelling and screaming. Right? And they would get so feverishly crazed that they wouldn't make any sense. Like my dad would say stuff like, boy, you better fix your face. And so right? And for the first 10 years of my life, I thought my name was Boy. That's just how he referred to me, right? And so my father would say that stuff, or my mother would, she'd get really animated, and she'd say, boy, go to your room till you learn how to act. And so I'd be in my room for a while. I'd get my act together. I'd step out into the hallway, and I'd say, to be or not to be. I spent a lot of time in my room. Because that's not what they were talking about in terms of an attitude. And maybe I'm a late bloomer, but I finally got it. So I'm 17. Now, my dad is my pastor, right? So I'm a preacher's kid. So on Sunday, we go to church from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We stop at 3 o'clock for chicken, not because we're black, but because chicken is delicious. All right? So church all day on Sunday. So Friday night, I asked my dad for the car. My dad loves me. So what does he say? He says, yes, he loves me. Right? So I get the keys. I'm hanging out with my friends. I fill the car up with gas. I come home before curfew. I toss my dad the keys. And he says I have what kind of an attitude? A responsible attitude? What kind of attitude? A good attitude, a positive attitude, right? What do I say about my dad's attitude? Yeah, it's also a good attitude, right? So Friday night, my dad and I are cool. Sunday, my best friend Dexter calls me at noon and says, Andre, can you pick me up for the movies? What do I know about Sunday? Church, all day. But I'm 17. I'm invincible. And Jesus is my friend. So I go to my dad and I say, Dad, can I borrow the car? And what does he say? No. Not only does he say no, but he gives me the hell sermon. See, the worst thing that could happen in my household was that you could go to hell. Didn't do the dishes, going to hell. Didn't cut the grass, going to hell. And either you could go to hell on your own, or he would show you the way. So as a result of that interaction, I would say my dad had what kind of an attitude? A bad attitude. What would he then say about my attitude? That is also a bad attitude. So Friday we were cool, Sunday we're not. What determines an attitude? What's that? Actions? Expectations? Person's perception. Okay, let's bring it home. Let's back up. Anyone have a teenager in your life? A niece, nephew, cousin? All right. Anyone been a teenager? All right, cool. So we all know that in terms of power and influence, that adults in our lives, particularly when we're teens, have a lot of influence. And so if we want something, we have to ask those influential people for their permission or grant their acceptance, right? So we typically would go up to an adult and say, please, kind and beautiful adult, if it is your will, might I go to Cindy Wentworth's party? It starts in 5 minutes. Right? And then that adult, I don't know if this has ever played out for you, but that adult, is contemplative, right? And they're thinking about all the stuff that they've asked you to do all week. They're reflecting on everything that you've done at a time when you don't need them to do that, right? So they're reflecting on all of this stuff, and they say, you know what? You got to seal your report card. Your room has been a mess, and you've been fighting with your brothers and sisters. No, you can't go to Cindy's party. What's wrong with you? What happens to the young person? They transform into this beast, ogre-like creature that weighs 5,000 pounds because they go to their room. And then they close the door like they own something. Right? So they change. And then the adult says, you know what, they reflect on this, you know what, I'm doing some transference, right? So I had a bad day, I'm taking it out on the kid. We've already talked about the C. The brothers and sisters have been snots, and we can take care of the room when they get back. So you go to the dungeon door, you knock. And the ogre dragging creature thing inside goes, what do you want? And smoke is coming up from under the door, and you stand there and you say, you know what, I was just thinking that you can go to Cindy's party. You can't stay for the whole time. I'll drop you off. I'll pick you up. We'll run some errands, and we'll just make a night of it. Just you and I after the party. What happens to that ogre monster creature thing? It transforms back into that child. And I will tell you, this is the point where you get the Facebook password. Right? And so what's the difference between the ogre and the young person? They achieve their goal. So what is it that actually determines one's attitude? Whether you achieve your goal or not. And so when you have a student in your classroom who's got a bad attitude, what do you know about that student for sure? That there's a goal in their life that they haven't met. And so what's the easiest way to help someone have a good attitude? Give them what they want. It's the easiest thing. Right? But what if what they want isn't helpful for you in the classroom, isn't good for them? What do you do then? You help them change their goal. And why is it important that you help them realize another goal? That they realize it. Why is it important that they realize another goal? Because the failure or the success of that goal is now external. And what we need to do is help that stuff be internal, right? That they are a center of power and influence, all right? So I've gone over about 3 minutes. We'll take it off the back end of the break, and I'll see you in a half hour. Thanks.